All right, y'all. It's Friday, March 4th, 10:55 a.m. And it's just another day on Clown Planet. Clown Planet 101, the Twilight Zone. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm convinced we might be in some sort of comedy show or James Bond movie, but I'll be honest with you. I'm having a really hard time taking the current state of affairs seriously. Now, that's not to minimize the awful, tragic suffering and pain that is going on in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, amongst the Ukrainians, and even amongst the Russians who are just doing, they're just soldiers and they're losing, from all reports, in the thousands have now died. So that's not in any way to minimize that. It's not in any way to minimize the tragedy that is war. But we need to take a step back here and just look at what's going on. And it's pretty obvious to me that the world right now, the leadership of the world, I should say, with the people who follow the leadership of this world are under some sort of, I don't know if it's a spell. I don't know if they're possessed. I don't know if their brains have been hacked or honestly hypnotism. I'm not sure. I do know it originates from the devil. And you can tell this just by the way these people act. The first thing I want to say about that is, if you know anything about the devil tries to make himself scarier than he is, okay? He is scary to those who do not know Christ, but to those people, he doesn't necessarily bother in a way, because he already has them. So who does he pick on? He picks on Christians. He wages war against Christians, and especially Christians who know he's there. And so I have had many experiences with the devil, and maybe not so much the devil, but his minions. And it's always the same thing of, I have to catch myself in these moments of spiritual attack, remembering that their power is limited, because that's the first thing that they try to convince you of, that they have the control. And the reality is they don't have the control. They have no control over anything. But they portray this false reality, really, that they have more control than they do. And again, I'm not minimizing demons or any, Satan or anything like that. It's all very real. But once you have been around the block, so to speak, a few times, it gets less and less scarier, and you're able to, by guidance only of the Holy Spirit and only through Jesus himself and his blessed mother, are you able to have the grace to be able to not be so afraid. And so this is, I guess, what has happened to me with the current status of the world. Like, we have to just take a step back. Listen, if we learn anything from the saints, it's what is so special about the saints. To me, it's that even under intense persecutions, they seem to have obtained the grace to maintain an inner peace. And I've always been interested to that, because that's something I've always desired, because I'm probably more prone towards anxiety and despair. And so I've really prayed hard. I've prayed hard these last months, years, that the Lord fill me with his joy and peace. And so I shared the last time, I'm just going to share something before I continue on with this thought. The last time I shared about a premonition I had in Mass last February about nuclear bombs. And that's all I saw. Like, I didn't see nuclear bombs being aimed at anything. I literally just saw nuclear bombs. That was it. Not anything blowing up, nothing. I don't know what it meant, other than I needed to pray against that. But what I didn't share from my journal was immediately after that, I had an encounter the next day, and I think it was either the next day or the day after, in Mass with Jesus, an eternal vision. The only time this has ever happened to me in my life, it hadn't happened to me before that, and it hasn't happened to me since, where internally I met Jesus himself, and we were in what I would describe as like the outskirts of heaven. Definitely God's territory, but not so much inside the pearly gates, so to speak. I don't know if that was just an indication of the state of my soul or what. But clearly God's territory, and I could there was two things I immediately sensed: that was real, and what is on earth is not real. That was my home, and Jesus was the realest thing I ever knew, and everything that went on earth, all my fears, anxieties, everything just melted away and seemed so far away, and like it wasn't real. And I had the notion that there was war going on, that heaven was at war, that there was war off in the distance. And I just remember looking at Jesus, and he was just peaceful and smiling, and I'm like freaked out, and I'm, not freaked out, but I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm awaiting like orders for him to tell me to do something. And he was just so peaceful, and I was just overcome with this peace, and he just had this like smile, almost like a smirk on his face, and he was just the most perfect creature. I guess not, he's obviously not created, but the most perfect thing I've ever seen. And he was just like, I want you to sit next to me. And I did. Like, I hesitated, but I did. And I went over and I sat next to him. And I was just filled with this peace and security. And like, that was real. And nothing else was real. And then it was over. That was it. And previous to that, I had seen all these horrible things, right? So in the same like interior visions I was seeing, like all at Mass, all after communion, and I don't know, but I was seeing natural disasters, volcanoes, and then the nuclear bombs, and all this horrible stuff. And then there was that, and so it was almost like heaven saying, like, all these horrible things are going to happen. Yes, pray against them. But the main focus shouldn't be on that. The main focus is on sitting next to Jesus. And when you do that, you're filled with peace and just serenity. And so the saints have that. Like, if you go back and read the lives of the saints, they have that. They have that peace and that serenity, that they're like untouchable by this world. And that is what we should all strive for. And a big way of doing that, from what I have learned through prayer and reading the lives of the saints, is humor. Now, obviously, we shouldn't be bullies and we shouldn't be mean, but the devil's tactics are hilarious. Like, if you really step out of the fear for a minute and take a step back and look at the planet we now live on, it is hilarious. These people running the show, trying to lord over the rest of us, trying to play God, are hilarious. I mean, there's no way around it. And they take on the characteristics of Satan himself. So that's how you know. So, like, you look at someone who maybe, like, the world won't consider pretty, like, or beautiful, like Mother Teresa or Mother Angelica. And you look at them, and they have a natural order to them, like, to their facial features. Like, maybe they have wrinkles or whatever, but there's something pleasant about looking at them. Like, you just get a sense of pleasantness. Like, they're just pleasant to look at. And then you go and you look at somebody like Nancy Pelosi or Biden with their weird, like, contorted facial expressions, and like Klaus Schwab, who reminds me of like Count Dracula or Gru from Despicable Me, and like their weird facial expressions and their weird voices, and like Bill Gates, like, up there talking about reducing the population and vaccines with his legs crossed and his weird feminine sweaters and his glasses and his twitchiness, and like Nancy at the State of the Union, like, playing with her dentures, and Kamala looking like a military, like, commanding manly officer. Like, then there's like Hillary Clinton, who literally looks like and acts like a beaver or a rat or something like that. Like, handle it. Like, I can't handle it. Like, we're in, like, this isn't real. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Okay, I gotta get it together. But it's funny. Like, they look like their father, who is Satan. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, and so they want you to be scared of them. They want you to take them seriously. Like, and then you, like, even like Antifa, like with their purple hair and their weird combat boots and like combat boots, like you live in your mom's basement. Like, what are you talking about? Or the transgender militia with their story time with their weird makeup, like, and they want so bad for us to take them seriously, but I can't. I'm sorry. I won't do it. And now you have an entire country being canceled. So the entire country of Russia is now being canceled. Like, I just read something that Russian cats, like, Russian cats are banned from the international cat competitions, okay? And then you have Germany, like, seizing these James Bond looking yachts from, like, the Russian oligarchs. Like, what planet are we on? And you have Biden at his State of the Union not being able to pronounce words. Then he's up there talking about fund the police with a standing ovation. Like, y'all just talked about defunding the police for like 3 years. Like, what are you talking about? It was like he was trying to be like Trump or something. Like, he was picking on Putin, saying defund the police and secure the borders, and getting standing ovations from the Democrats. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's too much at this point. Like, I can't handle it. And so I find myself going back to a period in my life when I was 18 in basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And hard as I tried, I could not take the drill sergeant seriously, and I would get in trouble because I would laugh because it was hilarious. And I guess going into that, it's different because you know it's not real and they're putting on a show to get you to do whatever. But there were people who were totally, like, upset by it, and, like, I didn't understand those people because I thought it was hilarious. Like, first of all, the drill sergeants are hilarious. Like, the jokes and the whatever they come up with are hilarious. But that would get me in trouble because I would just be thinking it's hilarious. And so I find myself now going back to that point where I'm looking at Gru from Despicable Me up there talking about you will own nothing and be happy, ha ha ha. Like, all these, like, villains, like these real life villains are literally, like, wanting us to take them seriously. And, like, it's not working, okay? Like, we didn't take your poison injection. Well, I guess some people did, but, like, and so now, like, I find myself, even with those people, like, the vaccinated, right? So first we're canceling the unvaxxed, like, cancel those people, like, but those of us who are unvaxxed, like, cancel me all you want. I don't care. What are you going to cancel me from? I kicked myself off Facebook. Like, I don't participate in your society. I don't go to work. Like, I work for myself. Cancel away. But so, like, the ones who are scared of being canceled will, like, brag about getting the injection, right? And I've just come to this point where I'm like, oh, and I just look at them and I'm like, that's too bad. I'm so sorry. I'll say a prayer for you. And it's like the Southern, like, bless your heart. Like, you are so dumb. I can't believe you're even, like, bragging about it. But when you, instead of yelling or trying to argue your point or getting mad, if you just look at them and say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'll pray for you. They don't know what to do with that. Like, and then just walk away. So I've come to this point now where I can't take any of it seriously. Obviously, sin is very serious. The souls that are being lost, we have to pray for. And I pray and I do my penance and I offer sacrifices for sinners all the time. But I cannot take the narratives and the people running the show seriously anymore. And I won't. So I want to talk a little bit about the precedent for this in the church. So one of the saints, when I was thinking this over, that came to mind was St. Lawrence. And he was the guy, if you remember, he was an early church martyr. And he was being burned alive. Like, he's being burned at the stake. He's being burned alive. And obviously the powers that be, the evil powers that be, want people to see this and panic and deter them from Christianity. And obviously God knows this and fills his people with the ability to do the opposite. So they were burning him, and he looks at the judge or whoever and he's like, I think I'm done on this side, turn me over. And it was like the most epic thing ever. And this is like all throughout church history, right? And, like, people would go singing hymns where, you know, they were being burned and they would just start singing hymns. And so finally, in a lot of places, they had to stop public executions of Christians because it was having the opposite effect, because people were seeing this like, oh my goodness, like obviously these are God's people. It also reminds me of Elijah, the prophet Elijah, right? Where he's up there and, you know, he's facing the Baal worshipers and they're all taking Baal so seriously, and he is literally like making fun and mocking Baal, like just, oh, he must be sleeping, like that's why he's not responding. Like I think the humor of that is lost on a lot of scripture readers, but it is not lost on me because it was hilarious and I wish I was there to see it. Another one, there's a lot of recorded history of the saints. Like, I forget one of the saints. I don't know if it was St. Rose of Lima, maybe both, or St. Teresa of Avila or St. Catherine. One of the really good female saints says they woke up in the middle of the night, Satan was at the foot of their bed, and they just said, "Oh, Satan, it's only you," and went back to bed. And another one, St. Gemma Galgany. Now, when I talked about, I did that deliverance session, and one of the things I was praying against was fear. So I don't know if my perspective has changed through a grace of God. I'm sure that's exactly what it is. But one of the relics, there was 2 relics that the exorcist Monsignor Rossetti used. One was Padre Pio and the other was St. Gemma. And St. Gemma was viciously attacked. So I want to read a short little thing about her. St. Gemma Galgany was a late 19th century Italian mystic who had incredible spiritual experiences. In a letter to a priest, she wrote, "During the last 2 days, Jesus has been telling me after Holy Communion, 'My daughter, the devil will soon wage a great war against you.' These words I hear in my heart continuously. Please pray for me." She quickly realized that prayer was the best defense, and we can learn a lot from that as well. In response, Satan gave her violent headaches in order to make sleeping difficult for her. Her fatigue then made sleeping more difficult, but she persevered. How many efforts does not the wretch make? And she called him the wretch. And like, I love that. I love how these saints had these like nicknames, like the nicknames for the demons. Like, it's, oh man. Because it takes, when you don't take somebody seriously that wants to be taken seriously, they lose their power over you. And that's why they hate it. So the best thing we could do with these tyrants that are trying to play God is to not take them seriously. Understand their plan, pray against it, but don't take it seriously. Or them, I should say. So she says, how many efforts does that wretch make to make it impossible for me to pray? Yesterday evening he tried to kill me and would have succeeded if Jesus had not come quickly to my aid. I was terrified and kept the image of Jesus in my mind. At one point, while she was writing a letter, the devil snatched the pen from her hand and tore up the paper, then dragged her from the table, seizing her by the hair with such violence that it came off in his brutal claws. She described another attack in one of her writings. The demon came before me as a giant of great height and kept saying to me, "For thee there is no more hope of salvation. Thou art in my hands." See, they lie. They just lie to portray power. I replied that God is merciful and therefore I fear nothing. Then giving me a hard blow on the head in a rage, he said, "Accursed be you," and then he disappeared. I then went to my room to rest, and there I found him. He began again to strike me with a knotted rope and wanted me to listen to him while he suggested wickedness. I said no, and there's another. How else do we deal with these people? Don't listen to them. Just stop listening to them. And I had to catch myself because I fall into this trap. I'm usually pretty good, but this week I found myself falling into this trap because I wanted to know what was going on, of listening to these psychos. I said no, and he struck me even harder, knocking my head violently against the ground. At a certain point, it came to my mind to invoke Jesus' Father, eternal Father, through the most precious Jesus, free me. I then don't quite know what happened. That contemplable beast dragged me from my bed and threw me, hitting my head against the floor with such force that it pains me still. I became senseless and remained lying there until I came to myself a long time afterwards. Jesus be thanked. But she kept her faith in Jesus. She even used humor against the devil. She wrote this to a priest. If you would have seen him when he fled, making faces, you would have burst out laughing. He is so ugly. But Jesus told me to not be afraid of him. Then you have, like, St. John Vianney, right? He was attacked so much that he called him the Grappin. Oh, my child, you should have not been afraid. It is the Grappin, pitchfork, his name for Satan. He cannot hurt you. As for me, he torments me in sundry ways. At times he seizes me by the feet and drags me about the room. It is because I convert souls to the good God. And he would tell people, he was harassed so much, like, and people knew about it because there would be noises. People couldn't stay, in his place because the devil would pound all night. And he would just be like, oh, we're like buddies at this point. And so those are just a few small examples. I'm sure if you have another awesome example, put it in the comments below, because there's many out there of how the saints, even when battling terrifying demons and Satan himself, were able, through the grace of God, to be, first of all, be secure in God, to know that nothing was going to happen to them that God did not allow, and then to find humor in it. Now, we have to be careful to not make light of sin, to not apply this attitude towards sin, because sin is very serious, and that will separate us from God. But if you're in a state of grace and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, praying and offering penance and things like this, you have to take a step back at the situation and laugh. I mean, they canceled cats. They canceled cats. They told Russian Siberian cats that they can't be in a competition. People are like jumping into this, like, full speed ahead, cancel Russia, ban him, ban them off the airwaves, and we don't know the truth. The truth is obviously not what we're being told by the West or by Russia. That's not the truth. I don't know what's going on. I have wishful thinking, and I'm an optimist. I hope that Putin is genuinely a Christian, and I hope that Russia has been converted so that he can fight the freaks running the West. I'm dead serious. That's how I feel about it, okay? However, there's certain things that are alarming to me that kind of seem that maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I can't ignore the fact that he did invade Ukraine on the eve or whatever, the return of Pluto, which is like the occult's like high holy day of this year, of this time of year. Like, it's a huge deal for them. And that's like another thing, like, people who think a rock in the sky controls the destiny of humans are trying to tell us what to do. Like, if you don't think that's funny, like, they align their war campaigns with planets. Like, you people are, I mean, we've already been freed from this, okay? Like, the Great Reset, do you want to know what the Great Reset is? It's resetting humanity back to before Christ. That's what it is. Into the real dark ages of paganism. That's what the Great Reset is. But they're doing it in a high-tech way. Technology at the highest level, who says it, is indistinguishable with magic. And these freaks, and that's what they are. Yes, I have to pray for their conversion because I'm a Christian and that's what I'm told to do. But they act like Satan. Like, if I believed in aliens from outer space, I would say that aliens from outer space have landed and taken over humanity, and all the people currently running things are aliens. That's how I feel. I obviously know aliens are not real. They're interdimensional, not extraterrestrial. So yes, in a way, aliens have landed. What is Satan? A being from another dimension or another place, heaven, that fell to earth. Like, he doesn't belong here, but he rules over it. Yeah, so in a way, aliens are running the show. Like, that's not, like, made up. Like, and so they have, like, Gru from Despicable Me, I can't get over it, up there talking about you will own nothing and be happy, and global warming and whatever else they talk about, equality. You have Zuckerberg. First of all, I don't think Zuckerberg's a human at this point. I think maybe at one time there was a human named Mark Zuckerberg, but what I look at is not a human. I don't know if it's a robot, an AI robot, or if it's somebody that's totally and completely possessed by Satan. I don't know, but he is not. I don't know what's going on there. But he's up there trying to tell us to join the metaverse. Where you can buy fake burritos and you can own land next to Snoop Dogg. I can't handle it. So, I can't handle it. Anyway, it's funny. Laugh or you'll go crazy. Just laugh. Laugh while still praying and just bless your heart, Bill Gates. Bless your heart. Joan of Arc Media out.